Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the Crypto Valley Association Startup Working Group event. It's very nice to have you here. Let's wait a couple minutes so we can let more people in. We still have some people in the waiting room, so we keep adding them to this room now. So nice to see you guys here.
Nice to see you. Hello.
Hello. Wow, we really have a lot of people in the waiting room. It's good to see. Wow, okay, cool. All right, maybe I'll just start with the introduction. So after a while, maybe after the introduction, more people will be let in, and then Johannes Schweifer, which is our guest today, and he will start a presentation. So the topic of today's workshop, or we call it workshop or webinar, is called How to Successfully Build a Product on Blockchain. And our guest today is Dr. Johannes Schweifer. He holds a master's degree in chemistry and a PhD in distributed computing and quantum chemistry from the Technical University of Vienna. And he's a serial entrepreneur. He co-founded Bitcoin Swiss in 2013, developing its foundational infrastructure. In 2017, he founded CoreLedger AG to expand blockchain applications beyond finance. He's passionate about problem solving, and Dr. Johannes Schweifer is dedicated to use blockchain technology to address global challenges and demonstrating its true potential through practical solutions. And through the work at CoreLedger, and they have accumulated a lot of experience helping companies to build products on blockchain. And from today's workshop, I hope you guys can gain a lot of insights from him, and we will leave the Q&A session at the end, so you can ask all the questions. And then if you would like, you can also book a free consultation call with CoreLedger's blockchain experts later on. And a little bit about myself. So my name is Yasi Zhang, the co-chair of Crypto Valley Association Startup Working Group. Some of you have attended the events in the past that I hosted. I'm the co-chair of this group, but also I have my own company. It's called Market. It's a Web3 marketing company to help blockchain startups go to market. So help them define strategies and our execution. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Dr. Johannes Schweifer. He will start a presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in this chat. And then at the end, we will select the relevant questions and then he will answer them. And if we run out of time, if we finish at 6, run out of time, and I will leave a link where you can book a call and to discuss with them about your projects and your challenges. Okay, so here we go, Hannes.
Thank you very much. It's a big pleasure to be here today. And also to see so many of you. Normally I give technical presentations, and with my engineering background, it's just a few people attending because it's too technical. Now with, let's say, my really long history in Crypto Valley, I'm one of those old dinosaurs. Yasi has already said it. My history with Bitcoin actually goes back to 2011. I've really seen a lot and can tell a lot of stories, not just the technical ones. As Yasi has already said, I've chosen the difficult part. It would have been much more easy if I had just remained with tokenization and selling tokens of everything and their dogs, right? But this business model is kind of pretty limited. What we do at CoreLedger is actually, wait a second, get some notification. What is this? Which language am I talking? English, I hope, or Austrian English. Yes. Technology. So I'm going to share my slides. Just a second. So today's topic is how to successfully build a product on blockchain. And as I already started to explain, I got a lot of experience in the past because of our involvement in industry projects. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our company, what we are doing, why we do it, and then the interesting part, what we experienced so far, why blockchain projects fail, There are many reasons how to align a product and a product idea with market trends. You might have experienced it yourself already, that market trends, especially in crypto, they come and go. And it's a pretty fast and highly frequent cycle. Of course, how to choose the right technology, it's not so easy. Most people in the past decided to just run things on Ethereum until Ethereum became too expensive. And then product idea died, right? So this is a big topic, actually. I repeat it many times, so it cannot be missed. The funding, a very important topic, the most important of all, but not I mean, it's part of the bigger picture, right? So it's not just the funding, it's every piece and of the puzzle. And then, of course, how we can help you succeed if you want and need some help. Questions and answers afterwards. So what does our company do? We focused on industry applications. Of course, we can also do simple token projects, but essentially about bringing value with blockchain technology and helping our customers to build their software. Why would you want to build something on blockchain or with blockchain? Simply because you might be able to offer cheaper and more competitive products, or make them available globally. It's a big topic, or accessing new customer segments. Always keep in mind, I'm not just talking about tokenization and speculation. So one big topic here is data. Data is the new gold. Some say it's the new oil, doesn't matter. The point is blockchain technology can ensure the value of that data. Whether it's certification or creating unforgeable audit trails of something, or notarization of data on blockchain, or yes, tokenization, the creation of a token economy, a barter market, and whatnot else. We are present in many different industries. So from finance to gold trading, so real world asset tokenization. We prefer the term digitization because there's a certain special element in it which makes it easier to get through regulation. Then, of course, circular economy, real estate again, notarization I already mentioned. BlockSense is a battery passport, a digital battery passport, which we implemented on internet computer technology. IP tokenization and digitization, and a lot of different things. Our core technology is built on the Microsoft technology stack. And of course, we are using different blockchains as infrastructure underneath. The whole technology that we built is blockchain agnostic, so we can run on pretty much any blockchain as long as it supports a Turing-complete programming language. See, I'm getting too technical. So let's jump into the first interesting topic, why projects fail. 3 main reasons: issue with a business idea, you bet on the wrong technology, or the most common, you run out of funding. I mean, the first one, business idea, there were many projects on blockchain that hatched already in 2013 when there was just the Bitcoin blockchain. I remember CoreLedger, the audit trail for diamonds. I mean, that was a very good idea, but a little bit too early. And that happens many times. It's mostly not your fault to be too much of a visionary, but nonetheless, it's one of those reasons, right? Then, of course, the pricing model. Every idea that launched in the very early days was kind of a pilot attempt to bring something to the market. The easiest one was, of course, speculative, creating speculative tokens, right? Buying, or even better than that, facilitating buying and selling of tokens, DeFi markets, etc. So that was often regarded, and still is, as the killer application of blockchain technology. That was easy. But building something new that had a certain industry, not the finance industry, as its target, that was difficult. So if you had runaway costs for your operation, maybe the pricing wasn't very attractive for the customers, and it just didn't work. Also, not really needed. I've long been in the crypto valley now, and I've seen so many ideas come and go, and also many of those which were not really solving a problem. The one that haunted us the most and still does is regulatory challenges. So many things that would be really nice, but the regulator simply doesn't allow it without a costly permit or doesn't allow it at all. And things which are, for example, possible in Switzerland might not be allowed in Germany. Now, MiFID and MiCA disallow things that were possible before, make it simply more expensive to run a business model. So this is really one, let's say, stumbling stone that often becomes a problem with new ideas. Technology, also not the easiest thing. I mean, in most cases, people say, well, we just develop it and then we will see. Yes, true. Often you also see that the blockchain technology on which you build is maybe not as mature as you thought it would be. Ethereum, for example, was very long at a pretty much better stage. Also Bitcoin, I mean, it worked. There was never a real failure other than waiting for, I remember, a couple of days for a block to be generated. But that was all kind of beta stage. Nobody really had a chance to stress that before. So when you build on something, just keep in mind a lot of that is early stage. Transaction costs, gas costs, that became a trap for most people who built early stage on Ethereum. Also keep that in mind. Almost no blockchain gives you a permanent guarantee that the gas fees will always remain low. So when you build on something, it could happen that sooner or later you have to migrate. So keep the migration option in mind. Development and maintenance, most people underestimate that. Building something, some smart contract is one thing, but creating or building it in a enterprise ready state and also maintaining it over time, especially when you combine different technologies, that could become nail in a coffin simply because you have exactly these runaway costs. And what is true for the costs is also true for the time. So when something is underestimated, which happens quite often with blockchain projects, then also the time to market is underestimated, the time it takes for maturity, and that could also be the killer for a project. Running out of funding, the classics, development takes too long. You have to pay for your team the entire time until you earn the first franc, and not only the first franc, but also many more in order to fund your entire operation. That's bad. Finding investors before you are break even, or even worse, before you earn your first Swiss franc is really difficult. It's easier to get early stage funding than to get funding during development. I know it from own experience. Also difficult is to find customers. That goes back to the issue with business idea. I mean, if you build something that is not really solving a problem in the market for which people are willing to pay for, or if the market cycle has already turned the page, right, then you might also find it very difficult to sell your product. Same with the business model itself. If it's not plausible or too difficult to explain, I always advise keep it simple as possible. Something that is very special to blockchain technology, it's our let's say boom and bust cycles, right, or the market cycles. If you happen to need money when there is a bearish trend at the moment, that is bad because you will not really find investors, especially for the very specific topic of technology. Finding investors who invest in tokens, which are promising, is sometimes far more easy than finding investors in a technology idea. Yeah, of course, and then clear the team, the product, positioning, etc. If you're not attractive enough for investors for a variety of reasons, you will also sooner or later run out of funding. I mean, these are no-brainers, more or less, but I wanted to put it on the slides, just that they are not forgotten. The hype cycle, you might be familiar with the curve. It's the hype cycle of emerging technologies. And here we have also seen a lot of different stages. I witnessed the earliest stage where people used products which were barely usable at all, just a bunch of lines of code, but nonetheless, I mean, they worked, right? So, okay, blockchain protocols were not exactly a bunch of lines of code, but most of them were just copy and pastes from the Bitcoin blockchain, such as the Litecoin blockchain, right? And it was easy to just sell something based on a shitty web interface, if there was an interface at all, or just the copy-paste solution. Trading, remittance, exchanges, the earliest business model here, it just had to work. Most of those who used those tools, or exactly who bought into tokens or Bitcoin at the earliest stage, they had no idea how the technology worked. So it was the easiest business model to help them buy tokens, buy Bitcoins, or sell them. Well, Yasi already said it. My background is being one of the co-founders of Bitcoin Swiss, right? So that was the foundation of Bitcoin Swiss success, to just help people cope with difficult technology. And there, it really didn't matter how difficult it was, because there were the experts helping them for premium. So that was easy. Early tokens, ICOs, also easy, helping those token sellers to succeed or to thrive by providing a token sale platform was the next easiest thing to do. This only worked as long as the ICOs were still possible, regulatory possible. Now they are not. I mean, nobody talks about ICOs. They changed their name simply because, well, it became tainted. So we are now talking about okay, STOs. That's also a different product, security token offering, that never really worked because of this legal and regulatory barrier and KYC AML wrapping around it. It's a hurdle. But nonetheless, I mean, we heard, I mean, there were different terms minted for that, like initial exchange offerings and so forth. Nonetheless, speaking about the early stage, it was possible to make money with very simple concepts or highly technical concepts with bad user interfaces. Then, when the mainstream recognized, oh, there's a new technology and people can make money with that technology, new ideas came on top. Ah, nice. And also with Ethereum, right? So with the emergence of programmable blockchains, second generation blockchains, you could create really nice things, games, wrap your token into a nice business model, utility token concept, right? Then also white label tools appeared, exchanges, wallets, and so forth. NFTs came and went. And of course, the real world asset tokenization started to get some traction and steam. Then we went into the bear market. That's the trough of disillusionment, I think is the name of this pattern. So it took quite long until the industry also picked up that topic. Keep in mind, the industry is very slow. So it takes years, okay, years, it takes decades before the industry, and I'm not talking about the financial industry, financial services industry, it takes decades until the general industry, like manufacturing and whatnot else, pick up new technology and want to implement it and integrate it into their products and and general business processes. And they only do it with the help of third parties. So they normally don't code anything themselves or let somebody code anything for themselves, because that's legacy software. They prefer to combine things that already exist in some way. And that's, of course, a topic for Web3 infrastructure providers and having simple solutions that can be used in the form of an API or something. Oh, yes, and there was also the metaverse. I think many people saw blockchain and metaverse concepts as a natural fit. They somehow vanished. I haven't heard anything about that. Now we are talking about AI plus blockchain, but it's a different topic. Anyway, so this third era or part or pattern in our hype cycle is mostly reserved for well-designed, well-thought-through applications and platforms. Making money with a simple token is these days, I would say, pretty much impossible. But I'm happy to be proven otherwise. So the right product, what we can say from own experience is that, can you still see my screen? What we can tell from own experience is that a lot of people are looking into real world asset tokenization as a way to sell otherwise illiquid assets. Well, real estate is here topping the list. Also, we get a lot of requests for doing that. The most important thing is that tokenization alone is not the solution. So it needs a little bit more than that, but more about this later. Also, gold and gemstones or collectibles, fragmenting cars, fragmenting art, etc. Data security and integrity, authenticity, etc. So actually being able to prove that some data was genuine, some entry, some whatever recording was genuine, is actually topping our list. We have many of those projects which are in the area of proof of origin, where it's important to augment the quality of a product by giving it an unforgeable seal. Why on blockchain? Because of exactly this unforgeable trait. And there are really many different applications. Digital product passports, I mentioned one, the digital battery passport from BlockSense, so that's only one example. These things come not because industries really desperately want that, but because of regulation. I personally really hate the topic of regulation, sorry, and this is now on record. Anyway, but because of regulation, many companies who said years before, what unforgeable records? We don't want that. Now need to have unforgeable records. And that's actually a business model for blockchain technology. Of course, third place, financial infrastructure, many different remittance and payment services. So this is still a big topic, especially when it comes to integrating blockchain technology and crypto into already existing legacy software for banks, banking backbones, etc. Core banking systems, that's a big topic with a lot of work and investment also going on at the moment. Of course, token sales, we also have many token sales and simple stuff. Utility token, circular economy, not to be omitted. Here, if you use a blockchain that is not generating too much CO2, right, then it also makes sense from a financial perspective to use kind of tokens as an incentive to not buy something, but rent it from somebody or vice versa, rent it out to somebody, etc. So these are just examples from our own experience at the moment. Projects that are in our books. Actually, the slide is a month old, so the numbers are not correct. They are bigger at the moment. Avoiding the pitfalls. So regarding the target group, you have to keep in mind that real-world asset investors have really a problem with tokens. Why? Because real-world asset investors, they are pretty happy with a yield of 5%, 10% per year. That's fine. So this is what they, unless there is huge inflation, right? But in the absence of that degree of inflation, 5 to 10%, maybe 20 is totally fine. And this is what you could, in theory, make with a real-world asset. These people, they are normally from an older generation. So they are familiar with those real-world assets. They believe in real estate. They believe in gold. They believe in this and that. They don't really understand why they should, first of all, risk this asset with, by having the potential to lose the private key. The handling is normally not really good, especially if it's non-custodial, right? If it's custodial, then a lot of costs come on top for the custodian. And if you see it from the other way around, the other perspective, those who like tokens, classic token investors who are familiar with the technology, who have no problem to actually take responsibility for their own asset, they are not satisfied with 5%, 10% yields. They want plus 100, plus 1,000. So what they were used to when the token hype went off in 2017 and 18. So they will not buy into real world assets. It's just not really a yield for them. I mentioned this at CB Summit when I was invited to a panel speaking about real world assets. And that was kind of an eye-opener actually, that the target group needs to be taken into account when people tokenize something. Tokenizing a real world asset does not necessarily mean that it's much, much better than a speculative token backed by nothing. Actually, it needs to be really carefully considered what you do and what you have in mind, and what utility concept comes on top in order to be successful there. Also, whatever you do, I mean, if you tokenize real world assets, keep in mind you should build a prototype as early as possible, because building too much technology, building too much software here, and then trying it out in real life 2 or 3 years after you started building is not really a good advice. You should focus always on your core functionality and ignore the additional features. If people like your product, then they will also like it already with the core functionalities, and are happy if you supply additional features later. And then, yes, the user experience, it's absolute key. So I also often fall into this trap because I'm an engineer. So I like to go into the details, explain also the nitty-gritty details, right? So how things work, why they work this way, etc. And people, users will not appreciate that. They judge you by a number of pixels, or the right color, or I don't know, or a small missing feature. Right? Okay, before I talked about missing features, but anyway, you should keep in mind that users are normally not impressed by the technology. That's fact. So the simpler it is, the better. And also my advice from long years of experience, avoid a token unless you really need a token. Most people start a project because they want to sell a token and then build a project around it. That will not work. And yeah, also the user experience versus security is a topic. Whatever you do, keep in mind when people have a risk to lose their fortune by just clicking on the wrong button, that could also be an issue. And speaking of user experience and security, it makes a huge difference. First of all, in yeah, for the end user, whether he is responsible for his assets and has to write down, for example, a seed. So that's the non-custodial approach. Okay, the most widely used approach to do something non-custodial, to have the private key on a customer device. Nonetheless, it's an uncomfortable one. So you might want to prefer the custodial one. It's easier for the end user, much easier. They only need password and login and password. Problem is just then a regulatory one. And if you keep the private key for them, well, then you could be a very juicy target for a hack. Keep it in mind. Timing. Well, regulation has changed a lot in the last couple of years. When Bitcoin Swiss started, it was very simple to do to trade Bitcoin. And well, okay, trading Bitcoin is still pretty much simple. So you only needed a membership with a self-regulatory organization. And that's one of the biggest benefits actually of being in Switzerland. But nonetheless, whatever you're working with, when you do something with financial products, just calculate the budget, and a significant budget for legal and regulatory clarification. You will need it. 100K plus is normally required, depending on the kind of business you do. Just don't underestimate it. That is my message. And also add some additional time. If you need a license, or if you need even, okay, you never get approval from the regulator, but at least you get a non-action letter, right? So if you need a no action letter from FINMA or another regulatory body, it takes time. From own experience, CoreLedger also tried. We didn't need to do this in Switzerland because we are in Liechtenstein, but nonetheless, we tried it in Switzerland. It took 18 months until they reacted. simply because the technology that we implemented was so new that they had no idea what to do with it. Hype cycles, be careful with that. In the time, so at the time when token sales were very popular, many people tried to create token sales platforms, but well, it was in the making for some time, and when those token sale platforms were ready, the hype cycle was already over. Also, if you build something where your main argument is for marketing, this might not work. We also actually have to admit that at the very beginning tried to sell blockchain technology and blockchain-based products as an additional market value. The industry is not buying that. So writing blockchain inside on a product does not really help you with selling it. Yep. Then the token sale trap I already mentioned before. So if you don't need a token, don't do it. And if you only want to sell a token and build a business model around it, this will only rarely work. I have seen it work in the past. I have not seen any current examples. Don't be fooled by some reports that there are successful token sales. Yes, there are. Some of those are really done with significant marketing budget or already existing groups of buyers, or they are fueled by a preceding private sale where people buy their own tokens from the private sale money and so forth. So a lot of things happen around token sales, which modify the number in such a way that people believe that token sales are still a good deal. Mostly they are not. I'm not saying, I'm not excluding it, but I just want to say, be careful with the numbers, okay? Yep, and what we also see these days, especially well with blockchain foundations, is that they use their own tokens, their reserves, in order to bolster their business model, which is sometimes research, sometimes development, sometimes grant. It's also often companies being built out of a huge stash of their own tokens, or actually a huge stash of money from their own token sale. When this runs out, the reserves they are digging in. The problem is just that's not sustainable. So if you only thrive on your reserves that you're putting to the market, then it is either a problem with your tokenomics, so the token price is continuously suppressed, or it's a general problem if you're not making enough money from your business model so that you constantly need your reserves. Tapping into your reserves to help your project grow, that is a different topic. So if you're sustainable even without selling those tokens, then that's fine. Yep, and I mentioned already the timing, of course. If you are building something that is needed right now, so it fulfills a need and closes a gap right now, then put it to the market as soon as anyhow possible, simply to see whether or not it works. There's no problem in realizing, I mean, no problem. Of course, there's some loss of money, right, and loss of time, but what the Americans also say is fail early. If your product is not fit for the market, if you're not finding any buyers, you want to see that as early as possible so that you don't waste too much time and money on it. On experience, I did that a couple of times, wasting money and waiting too long until I found out that something didn't work. But this is the fate of a serial entrepreneur, right? And I learned from it. So therefore, I tell you, if you have the possibility to check something on the market, to maybe put a prototype out there just to see how the potential customers react, do it. Technology. At the moment, well, everything cycles around scalability and low transaction cost, because a lot of people also realized, well, it is pretty expensive to run things on Ethereum. Okay, fees went down, but nonetheless, it's still expensive. So second layer protocols are very attractive. Polygon, Avalanche. I learned today in a sales call that for financial products in Germany, it's mostly Polygon and Stellar. Just popular for that reason. Then, of course, internet computer. If you're familiar with the technology, it has a really remarkable scalability. I'm not talking about the token. Very often I hear feedback from our customers that they are not happy about the ICP token performance. Ignore this performance. Just look at the technology. It's pretty good, and also the transaction fees are pretty low. I cannot talk much about Solana because we serve industry clients. So Solana is very popular with meme coins and so forth. So the tokenization projects, our industry clients, if they know any blockchain technology at all, never talk about Solana. Liquidity, of course, we hear that very often. People prefer to launch on a blockchain or using a technology where they have also access to additional liquidity. Of course, if you want to do a token sale, you need liquidity. Otherwise, it's mostly about creating closed ecosystems, your own systems where people can trade from one tokenized asset into something else, but it's your ecosystem, right? So you won't necessarily need that liquidity. And also launch pads, of course. Okay, but that's not our primary business. Ethereum is, of course, still highly popular for its existing liquidity, and that's, I don't want to say it's unmatched, but there's still a lot of liquidity on Ethereum, and there are all the DEXs and DeFi facilities that you could imagine. Yeah, Solana I already mentioned. So source of funds, that is a big topic for the choice of technology, because blockchain foundations are very generous with grants. Well, not any longer, I learned, simply because they also found out that many of those projects just drain their reserves and might not bring added value to their ecosystem, because just having yet another token on the blockchain doesn't really help. So what they are looking for is also sustainable projects, games, industry projects, things that will stay there for a longer time and also have commercial traction. That's important. So blockchains are basically giving grants. They never pay the entire development, or they never fund the entire development. They only fund a part, so that people also have a skin in the game. But nonetheless, they give grants for your project so that you can well, develop on their chain. They want you on their chain. And also, if you are incubated somewhere, if you have whatever the chance to work with an accelerator, then they also have already existing partnerships, and this might also influence your choice of platform. The most important message is, keep in mind that whatever you're building on right now, it might be a choice that you might have to reverse at some point, especially if it's kind of exotic, because not all blockchains will survive. That's a fact. Well, there are many pitfalls here, especially with the technology. People love to build. I know that from my own experience. I'm also an engineer, so before I do research, okay, that was the past. So like 10 years ago, before I looked around if somebody already had something that I could use, I wanted to build it because it's a challenge. Don't fall into that trap. It's just expensive. I burned my fingers now a couple of times, so I know it from experience. So keep in mind, there's often an opportunity to buy something or even components that you can assemble. And if you build it yourself, then be careful with your budget, because remember what I mentioned before, people judge you on the basis of what how the product looks and how the user experience is, and will not appreciate any of your technical details and engineering skills. So 80% of your budget will go into things that people will never ever see and never appreciate or thank you for. Don't skip the POC. Really, I advise you to not do that, because POC allows you to try out the product, check it with some early users, the test users, so to speak. But then you can also get a feel on how the product looks, how people react to it. If you skip that step, then you pay that many times later in the project. Yes, I already mentioned the interesting challenge. So yeah, don't fall into this trap of doing something just for the sake of doing it, because it's interesting. You will regret that. And your customers may want an audit. So if you don't have an enormous amount of budget, I see somebody's drawing on the screen.
Yeah, yeah, guys, please, there is this Antoinette, like this button at the lower left hand. Probably you click that. Please do not draw anything on the screen. Thanks for your collaboration.
I was already wondering where this was coming from, because there was this red, I don't know what it is, hook or something, on the top. Is it possible that you can delete it? Because otherwise I cannot see the screen. Okay, anyway, I just continue. But if there are questions, are there already questions, Yasi?
Yeah, in the question, someone asked, what is your advice on selecting a blockchain with the lowest gas fees?
Depends on your use case. So I cannot give you any advice on this without knowing what use case you have in mind. If it's financial, maybe Polygon is a good choice. If it's super technical, internet computer might be a good choice. Let's dive into this later. But are there any urgent questions which justify all those check marks? No? Okay.
Yeah, there were a couple of discussions on real-world asset tokenization, but I guess if there are some concrete questions on that topic, you can type it in the chat function, then we can tag on that after the presentation.
Please, please stop making check marks. Okay, where was I? Something with audit stress. So it's cheaper to have your supplier do the audit and not yourself. That is also costly. In our case, costed 150,000 or something. So that's not insignificant. The technology. People often forget that. I mean, you could try to do everything yourself, but very often you need help in your project. So you need additional people, and the more technologies you combine, the more people you need. And well, many people cost a lot of money, especially in Switzerland. So you might want to keep it as simple. Oh, thanks. As simple as anyhow possible. What else? Exotic technology. Yeah, that's a point. I mean, often people like to try out new stuff. We ran into real troubles using Xamarin, which was very popular back then. And at some point, Microsoft just stopped support. Okay, it was not exactly so exotic, but nonetheless, it's just one of those examples that you have to keep in mind. If you build a lot yourself, you also have to maintain it or upgrade it or even move technology. Also, availability. If you have the possibility to just let all the complex part be done by somebody, or use existing components, right, and then build with simple technologies like web stuff or some app development, it's much better than do something exotic. And yeah, if you use exotic technologies, then you also need an audit in this technology, right? And these guys, they're very expensive, and they know that they're expensive. So time to launch. Many impacts. Administration. If you have, I mean, one thing is that most projects are done in an agile way these days, but also keep in mind you cannot start in an agile way at the very beginning. You normally start with a classic approach. Need to do some designs, etc. So getting your ducks in a row is something that takes some time. Also the team, the larger the team, the longer it takes to perform. So you also want to keep it small. building something on immature, outdated technology, poof, yes. Same thing that I said before, the more pieces you need to have, I mean, yeah, the more pieces that need to interact, the more costly it gets. And also swapping some technologies also takes months, if not years. What we always advise people is to avoid integrating too new technology or too old stuff. Always take something that has already proven itself, and also that the same is true for the blockchain infrastructure. Prototype, I already mentioned. People underestimate it or actually get it wrong. They think start already with the productive build at the very first stage is the thing to do because that's faster. That's not true. So doing a prototype or an MVP means you have the chance to steer your product a little bit, getting feedback, integrating that feedback. Integrating a feedback into a POC is much cheaper than integrating feedback and changing your scope or something, or adding features to an already productive version of your product. Yep. Also basically, whatever you do, keep in mind technologies change a lot. The hype cycle is always your enemy. Basically, you never know when the next bear market might come. Last time it was triggered by the Ukraine war. It was just a trigger. I mean, it was already around the corner, but nonetheless, you don't know when it starts, and you want to be on the market already, earn money before that happens. So, in other words, don't waste time. Now, I wasted already. I'm sorry in the beginning. So I will move on here now a little bit more quickly. So I already said a lot before. Raising money, I mean, of course, money from grants. I already mentioned that, but blockchain projects, blockchain foundations, they prefer these days good and sustainable projects. They don't give funding for token projects. Also doing a token sale, it's hard these days. You really need to have a really good project and well prepared, and keep in mind it costs a lot of money to prepare it, also in marketing, etc. Yasi can tell you guys much more about that because she's professional in that area. So yeah, that needs a lot of preparation. Token sale is not what we normally recommend as funding. If you plan something that has more to do with industry, then incubators and accelerators is maybe a good place to go, because that is a way to get early stage money and also have somebody who has skin in the game and might look for follow-up investment. It's much more difficult if you fund your stuff yourself. I know what I'm talking about because I funded many projects myself. Finding follow-up money is then always difficult if you don't have anybody else having skin in the game. Classic way is, well, often the best with classic projects which use blockchain just as a technology. Big problem here. Those who invest in blockchain projects, they are looking for 10x, 100x in a few years. And that's normally not what you can provide them with if you build kind of a classic project. For most of the classic investors, blockchain is not the best word. Actually, it's often a red flag. So what I want to say is the number of investors, classic investors, VC investors, etc., who invest in blockchain projects which are not token projects, giving them I don't know what in rewards, is a very small number. Pitfalls here, yeah, cost, risk, time. I already said that many times. So you can save a lot of money by developing things yourself, but then you lose time, right? As a startup founder, you should actually look for fundraising opportunities or winning early customers. Of course, you can save money by hiring cheap labor. Not especially talking about Indians, but there are other regions which are much cheaper than Switzerland. That might be true. Or, of course, you have to keep in mind that you don't want to outsource the most critical parts of your project, smart contracts, to people you have never met. You can hire the experts, but that could also cost a lot. So balancing cost, risk, time is a big thing. Fundraising, well, it's often a lucky punch actually, until you happen to find the one out of the 100 that you ask who is willing to give you $1 million or more. In theory, it is possible to just get go fundraising with a concept. Just recently, I became involved in a project which exactly did that. With a concept on paper, yes, but normally there's more than just the concept that is needed, reputation, etc., etc. Don't bet on that because it's really a lucky punch. Classic investors want to see that you can deliver. That is true in most cases. So they want to see a prototype. They want to see that you're really building something and not just asking for money. You could, of course, get that money at an early stage, but keep in mind, then you will fork out a lot of your company. Token sales, I'm not mentioning again. So I already, how many times? 3 times, 4 times? I don't know. So you know my opinion about token sales, right? Project planning, of course, affects cost and timing. I said it in the previous slide. So investors want to see a prototype, and actually only if you can show them what you're going to build and convince them with that you have the skills and capabilities, then they give you money. Of course, you need the money to build the product. So normally we recommend a cycle like you start from a concept, you go into a POC, do an MVP, and then the last one is the final product, and then come all the features. It is an illusion that starting from the paper and then directly developing the final product is cheaper, because it's not. It's much more costly to fix errors in the final product than scrapping a POC or fixing something in the POC. And mentioned that also you want to succeed early, but you also want to fail early if you're deemed to fail. So anyway, if your project doesn't have any success on the market, you want to see that as early as possible. If you are already well funded, that's fine. So having a stash of Bitcoin, especially at today's prices, right? But if you do not, then you want to start small. Little money is fine, because it's easier to get little money than 50 million. Right? If you can get it, take it, but don't aim for that amount. It's just hard to get. Talk with investors early, and even if you don't have anything or don't look for investors, keep them warm, because initiating the contact with investors is very hard. So if you have somebody who is interested in you as a skillful person and says, okay, if you ever do something, then I might be willing to fund you, keep that guy warm, keep him close. Well, now, first or last minutes, how we can help you. Basically, what we already built is a platform and a really powerful operating system that covers these 80% that people normally don't see, don't appreciate, but needs to be there and needs to be functioning, which is absolutely enterprise grade and highly scalable and runs on different blockchains, so that you can only focus on the backend and front end part, the things that are easier to do and can be done with available resources on the market, web developers, app developers, etc. We did it in such a way that we segmented the functionalities that are needed on blockchain in a clever way, so that even smart contract development is not necessary. If it is, then the existing solution can just be extended without writing everything from scratch. That allows us to be much faster. So Theos supports everything around documentation, proof of whatever you want to prove, with an audit trail, with cryptographic linkage, which almost no solution supports. All different kinds of quantities, which is the decentralized accounting part. So NFTs, fragmentable NFTs, fungible tokens, and what else. Governance and compliance was built in with the possibility to have custom rule sets. Now with Internet Computer, we could also do live outbound calls to KYC, AML databases, etc., and even integrate an AI model on the fly to say yes or no to a transaction, which is pretty cool. So this is something that involves oracles or live outbound calls, implementing rule sets. And the last one is unique trading algorithms. Here we even have a DeFi patent. It's called token warp. Don't want to go too much into details. If you want to know more about it, just get into a talk with us. Important is that the system itself is blockchain agnostic, can run pretty much anywhere. We built it on Ethereum and launched even our own network called SparkNet, simply because when Ethereum became too expensive, we needed something where we could guarantee the gas price, and here the gas price is zero. Theos is also already available on Polygon and soon on Internet Computer. That was the biggest migration we did so far. There is an API to integrate blockchain commands into legacy applications, so you could easily also power your wireframe with it, doing rapid prototyping, which is one of the biggest assets actually that we can bring to the market. And we have a couple of white label tools, even more than those, but these are the most important ones to help you build a blockchain project. How we work? There's a free discovery call where we listen to your problem and propose some solutions. We normally do kind of an exploration, which is small scale consulting, which allows you to see all the potential solutions, impacts, and whatnot else of your blockchain project and how we would propose to build it. We can supply you with a POC, which you can use to pitch to investors, and of course we can build the live application. That's basically it. Here you see the link. And I think we could also send it out so you can type it from the screen here. Anyway, you can book a free discovery call with us and anytime. We are happy to help you.
Yeah, the link is sent in the chat. We have a question from Martin, and they ask that, oh, okay, which example of good and sustainable projects do you recommend to look at for inspiration?
Good and sustainable blockchain project. Well, it all depends what you're looking for. Are you looking for financial projects or I'm a bit biased here, so I can send a couple of examples later.
DeFi specifically.
DeFi. Again, what? Because if we are talking about the financial market and making money, then Uniswap is a very good project because they just published a smart contract and are constantly making money from it, and it's highly sustainable. So things like DeFi exchanges, DEXs, which are fully running on blockchain without even an identity behind. They are really perfect examples. I wouldn't recommend that though.
We have another question from Stuart. It seems that you are advocating layer 2 chain. What security do you build in and how do you address composability?
Composability. Okay, I don't really understand what the word here means in this context, but well, I mean layer 2 chains. Yes, we can build on pretty much any chain. What we normally recommend is a non-custodial solution, which means users are in charge of their own security and their own private key, which of course comes to the detriment of usability. And here Internet Computer helped a lot with internet identity. It's much easier to use that and integrate that in own projects. What we normally recommend is avoid to have many private keys on one place. So having a custodial solution, here again, Internet Computer helps because this is the place where we, for example, are kind of pooling private keys and building bridges. What did composability mean in that context?
He wrote like, is the ability to address a chain or sequence of events instead of with smart contracts. You are limited to one-on-one.
No, I don't do that. I don't fully understand the question though.
Or Stuart, you can switch on your mic.
Yes, Stuart, please say it live.
Hi, Johannes. Okay, on composability, one of the things which we're doing at the moment is the ability to look at different scenarios. With smart contracts, it's almost like a supermarket. You buy a whole bunch of things, but you've got one lane for onions, one lane for potatoes, one lane for carrots as you check out. Whereas what we're doing is looking at it and saying, whatever you're going to give me, I can handle in the one lane, like you would at a real supermarket. So with smart contracts, you generally have, if this happens, pay this or do this. But you need to do more for business. That's why blockchain has not really taken off in enterprise, is because in enterprise, you have a number of chain events that have to happen. Like I pay you money, you ship something, now decrement your inventory now goes out and orders more from the supplier. I increment my inventory by one of your products, I decrement my accounts payable, and I now change that into a different inventory, the part into a different inventory. Perhaps I'm buying a steering rack for a car, and so I'd put it in the car. So I'd associate it with something else. So I'd have a unique number all the way along. That's composability. That's not available with the smart contract.
Sure, but here you actually want to exploit one of the core features of blockchain technology. And again, we are talking about classic blockchains, second generation, which is exactly this sequence of events, which is also unforgeable. In an example that you describe, I wouldn't use blockchain that way. I would do a lot of it off-chain and only proof stamp something that is relevant for the business process on blockchain. Then it doesn't matter. It's always the way how you apply the tool. It's just a tool. On internet computer, for example, you can do it totally different because it's Rust programming. You can build whatever you want. And here, I think
that's not entirely true, Johannes.
Explained it could be possible. So yeah, it's very much a way how you design the business process. So my recommendation here is actually to
well, enterprise is not going to redesign their back-end systems just to go on blockchain. They want a plug and play.
Yes. Yes, that is true. And mostly they want to retain the legacy software and only spice it a little bit with blockchain technology where it makes sense. Example, we are currently also working for a company in Germany. I don't give any details there. And they are in the manufacturing industry, and everything is pretty much from, decades old. And now they are looking into blockchain technology in order to add value to their customers' products. And it's a very, let's say, little bit that they want to add, but this little bit has a business value for them in the area of hundreds of thousands per month. So the element that we need to add needs to be perfectly placed at the right spot. That's all I can add here. So it goes into details. Normally, such questions can be answered by yes or no. I hope you're satisfied with my answer. I need to know more about your business case in order to answer that.
I'll talk offline.
Okay, happy to do that.
We can take one last question. We're running over time. So maybe one small question before that is someone is asking if your technology open source or free to use?
We built our technology with a budget of like 10 million. So no, it's not open source. But we have open source code. Not everything is open source, but tiny bits, which can integrate with our technology. Smart contracts, you can decompile them, right? And look into them. But in general, it's not open source, closed source.
Okay. And Tatiana is asking if she understands it correctly that you advise not to go into tokens, but to investigate smart contracts topics. that this is the trend now. So could you please give examples of smart contract ideas that are now in the air?
Dr. Schweifer, my name is Tatiana. I'm here. That's the question I'm asking. Very interested recently in the whole crypto space. I'm now doing a course on crypto and just thinking about ideas. Like I have a team of really interesting people who are ready to do something. So we are now just thinking in which direction to start moving. So maybe you could advise.
Okay, it's a very good question actually, but you're partly asking the wrong person, because I was always skeptical about tokenization projects, and to my surprise, this hype cycle, or now they were pretty successful, more successful than I expected, and many people just came up with new tokenization ideas for this and that, and people bought that. I am advising to look beyond that, because at some point, either because of regulation or sooner or later, people run out of money, right? and all the speculative money will be gone. Industry will take over. What I can say from own experience, that topics which satisfy the regulatory needs for documentation are increasing, such as product certification, supply chain management, tracking, logistics tracking, and so forth. Because you need to prove where your raw materials came from, that this was not forced labor, that it was recycled, and so forth. Especially the EU is very much into that. And this also generates a lot of business for blockchain ideas. I can refer you, for example, to BlockSense, with whom we are working. That's the battery passport. Also, to give you a perspective, in the EU, this is already law. So you need to have a battery passport for every battery, which is above, I don't know how many ampere hours. So like a couple of e-bike batteries. In Switzerland, this will only become law in 2027. BlockSense discovered that this is a business, so they started to build it already now. So we are still talking about future business, but it's now coming. I can tell you many more examples. Unfortunately, not on record, definitely, because it's a customer project, so I can't talk about this in public. But yeah, certification, documentation, proof of origin, quality certificates, etc. Especially if you save money on that. And especially if you're, for example, accessing external systems, which require a certain degree of security, which is one of the reasons why we built the battery passport on internet computer, because of their cybersecurity features. So we save on other parts that we normally need on such a technical architecture without blockchain, firewalls, etc.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I hope this was this was helpful.
It was, of course.
I have a lot to tell, much more than I have time, unfortunately. But really, I encourage you, either write me on LinkedIn, make a discovery call if you're interested to talk with us. I'm really happy to discuss ideas also, or contribute to, I don't know what you're doing right now, writing some papers, whatever.
You're based in Zug?
Yes, Bar.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Pay us a visit. Would be happy.
We don't have other questions. We don't have time for other questions. But
Yes.
in case,
I apologize for talking so long. Sorry.
So in case if you have follow-up questions, or you would like to discuss with CoreLedger about your projects, maybe ask some questions regarding the technology, or you are not sure which direction to go, feel free to book this 30 minutes discovery call. It's non-binding, and then I think they're happy to just get to know each of you or discuss potential new business ideas together. So feel free to book one. And I hope you enjoy this session. Again, welcome to Crypto Value Association events. And I hope you guys take some useful information from this session. Thank you so much for being here. And thanks you, Dr. Johannes Schweifer, for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.